I was 4 years old when I grabbed a kitchen knife and tried to cut off my own hand. The pain had been eating me alive for years, burning, stabbing, never stopping. That night, I couldn't take it anymore. I screamed so loud the neighbors thought someone was dying. And in a way, someone was. Not the boy everyone saw, but the one inside me tired of being broken. You want to know how that kid ever made it to the NFL? You're not ready for this story, but I'll tell it anyway. You ever been told you're not enough? Not fast enough, not strong enough, not whole enough. Now imagine hearing that every day of your life, just because of something you were born with. That was me. A kid with one hand, chasing a dream no one believed in. Not coaches, not scouts, not even some of my own teammates. This isn't just a story about football. It's about being broken, dismissed, underestimated, and still showing up. It's about pain, real pain, the kind that haunts you when the lights go off. It's about the whispers behind your back and the pressure to prove yourself every single damn day. And it's about choosing, over and over again, not to give up, even when giving up would have been easier. In this video, you'll hear the truth they don't put on highlight reels. You'll feel what it's like to grind in silence, to train with a prosthetic hand just to be taken seriously, to wait for your name to be called when the world expects it never will. And you'll see what happens when that name finally echoes across the NFL draft, shaking everything they thought they knew about you. This is my story, and I promise you, by the time it ends, you'll never look at disability the same way again. If you believe in grit, resilience, and rewriting the rules, hit that subscribe button, drop a like to support stories that matter, and tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? City and country. I read them all, because this isn't just my journey. It's for every kid who's ever been told, you'll never make it. I remember the exact sound I made that night. It wasn't a cry, it wasn't a yell, it was a scream. The kind that rips through your throat and shakes the walls. I was 4 years old, and I was trying to cut off my own hand. The pain had gotten worse every week. My left hand, if you could even call it that, was deformed from birth. Fingers fused, twisted, swollen. It wasn't just ugly, it hurt. All the time. Sharp, burning pain that would come out of nowhere and hit like lightning. My parents did everything they could. Ice packs, warm cloths, doctors, prayers. But nothing helped. So that night, when they thought I was asleep, I snuck into the kitchen. My hand was throbbing again, pulsing like it was on fire. And in my little kid brain, there was only one solution left. Get rid of it. I climbed up on the counter, opened the drawer, and grabbed a knife. It was too big for my hand, the good one. But I held it tight, and I pressed the blade down on the wrist of the bad one. I didn't even get to finish. My mom burst into the room when she heard the drawer slam. She screamed louder than I did. My dad ran in behind her, saw the knife, saw the blood, and everything froze. That moment, it changed everything. The next day, they scheduled the surgery. Doctors amputated what was left of my left hand. And for the first time in my life, I felt relief. Not just physically, but emotionally. The thing that tormented me was finally gone. But what no one tells you is, when you take something away from a kid, you don't just leave a scar. You create a question, one that echoes for years. Now who am I supposed to be? At school, I was the kid with one hand. On the playground, they called me half. Some whispered, some pointed, some laughed right in my face. But the worst voice wasn't theirs. It was mine. Because no matter how much I smiled, deep down I thought I was broken, unfixable, unworthy. Even at 5 years old, I felt like I'd already failed. I became obsessed with hiding it. I'd shove my arm into my hoodie pocket, hold it behind my back, pretend it didn't exist, but people always noticed, always asked, always judged. My twin brother Marcus tried to protect me. He was born 2 minutes before me. 2 minutes. But a lifetime ahead. He had 2 hands. He was fast, strong, and when we walked into a room together, people saw him. I was just the kid tagging along. I used to wish we weren't twins, not because I didn't love him, but because standing next to him made my difference so much louder. At night, when the house was quiet, I'd look at my arm and wonder, will anyone ever see me as more than this? Not the one-handed kid, not the sad story, not the inspirational quote. Just a person, just me. But that kind of thinking, that kind of pain, it doesn't just fade, it grows into something else. Anger, determination, fire. And slowly, without even realizing it, I started building a monster inside me. Not a scary one, not a violent one, but a quiet, hungry one that was waiting, watching, preparing. Because someday this world that laughed at me, that called me weak, that pitied me, would have no choice but to watch me rise. And all of that started with a football, but not in the way you think. Because the first time I touched a football, it wasn't in celebration. It was in humiliation. Growing up with a twin is weird. You're born into this mirror. Someone who looks like you, sounds like you, moves like you. And when you're young, it feels like you're sharing the same soul. That was me and Marcus. Same clothes, same haircut, same jokes, same dreams. Except for one thing. He had two hands, and I didn't. You wouldn't think something so small could separate two people who were born minutes apart. But it did. And not just physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually. It was a crack in the glass that only got wider with time. Because when I looked at him, I saw what I was supposed to be. And when I looked at myself, all I saw was what I lacked. At home, things were equal. Our parents didn't baby me. If Marcus had chores, I had chores. If he got grounded, so did I. If he had to carry 2 grocery bags, I had to figure out how to carry 3. They didn't let me hide behind excuses, and I love them for that now. But outside our home, the world didn't play by the same rules. People would smile at Marcus, then glance at me like I was an accident. Teachers assumed he'd lead the group and I'd just tag along. At school, kids stared at my arm like it was something contagious. Some whispered, some laughed, some asked the questions adults were too polite to say out loud. What happened to your hand? Can you even write with that? Do you sleep with it like that? Do you wish you were normal? Marcus always had my back. If someone laughed, he checked them. If someone threw shade, he blocked it. He was my bodyguard, my hype man, my twin flame. But sometimes, it made things worse. Because the more he protected me, the more I felt like I needed protection. And that messed with my head. He saw a brother who needed backup. But I saw a boy who couldn't stand on his own. Marcus was a natural athlete, smooth, fast, confident. Even the way he walked looked like it belonged on a highlight reel. Me, I had to work for every ounce of strength. Every step, every sprint, every drill. Double the effort, half the recognition. When we'd play backyard football, captains would pick Marcus first. I'd get stuck at the end. Or worse, they'd tell me to just watch. You can't catch with one hand. You'll mess up the play. You might get hurt. They didn't see me as a teammate. They saw me as a problem. I started training by myself. Push-ups, sprints, throwing a ball against the wall for hours, learning how to catch it with one hand even when my fingers ached. I wanted to earn respect, not sympathy. But the more I pushed, the more invisible I became. Then came middle school football tryouts. Marcus made it, obviously. He didn't even break a sweat. Me, I ran harder, hit harder. But when the coach saw my arm, he hesitated. He didn't say it out loud, but I could see it in his eyes. He saw risk. He saw weakness. He saw a headline waiting to happen. After tryouts, he pulled me aside and said, "You're brave, but maybe football isn't your sport." He smiled like he was doing me a favor. That night, when Marcus found me in the backyard, I was throwing a football at the garage wall again and again. Catch, drop, catch, drop. He sat down next to me, quiet, just breathing with me. Then he asked, "You mad at me?" I shook my head. But inside, yeah, I was mad. At him, at the coach, at the kids who laughed, but mostly at myself. Because no matter how hard I trained, no matter how deep I pushed, I still believed what they said about me. But that night, something cracked deeper than bone. And what came out wasn't a broken boy anymore. It was a fire. The first time I stepped onto a football field as more than a spectator, I knew I wasn't welcome. Not because anyone said it. They didn't have to. You can feel it. In the way people glance at you. In how long the stares last. In the way no one makes space in the huddle. It was middle school, new year, new team. I showed up with my cleats tied tight and my heart held together with tape. And still, I felt like a ghost. Or worse, like a mistake someone forgot to erase. I could already hear the whispers. That's the one-handed kid. Why is he even here? He won't last a week. The coach scanned the group. He saw me, paused for just a second, then moved on. That pause, it said everything. He didn't say I didn't belong, but his silence said it louder than words ever could. We started with stretches, sprints, conditioning drills. I crushed them, not just kept up, led the pack. But no one cared. I wasn't there to be fast. They were waiting to see if I could catch, if I could block, if I could take a hit and not cry. I lined up for the first real drill. Basic out route, catch and go. Ball snapped. I took off. The QB fired a tight spiral. I reached up, snatched it with my right hand like I'd done 1,000 times alone in my backyard. Then it happened. Crack. Helmet to helmet. Cheap shot. Blindsided. I hit the ground so hard my lungs forgot how to breathe. Silence. Then, laughter. From the sidelines. From my own teammates. Even one of the assistant coaches chuckled like it was a blooper. Some kid yelled, "Welcome to real football, lefty." That nickname would stick for weeks. I stood up. Didn't say a word. Didn't ask for a flag. Didn't complain. I just lined up again. The coach walked over. "You good, kid?" I nodded. "Maybe stick to conditioning today," he said. And just like that, I was benched. That hit bruised my ribs, but what they did to my spirit hurt way more. From that day on, I became the guy who tried hard but wasn't built for this. They let me run, let me sweat, but they never threw me the ball again, never called my name in scrimmages, never gave me a real shot. I'd stand on the sidelines with my helmet on, hoping that somehow that would make them look at me differently. It didn't. I started going home angry, quietly angry. That dangerous kind of angry that builds in silence until it starts to rot. Marcus noticed. Of course he did. He'd find me in the backyard every day. Same routine, throw, catch, drop, repeat. But this time I wasn't training. I was punishing myself. He asked what was wrong. I didn't answer. So he pushed. Harder than before. No breaks. Catch it again. Faster. Until one day, I snapped. "You don't get it," I shouted. "You'll never get it." He stopped. Just stood there. Then said, "You're right, I don't. But they don't either. And that's exactly why you need to keep going." I didn't want to hear it. But later that night I replayed his words in my head. Over and over. They didn't get it. None of them did. They didn't know what it took just for me to show up. Didn't know how many hours I'd spent learning to tie my shoes with one hand. Didn't know how long I stared at my reflection wondering if I'd ever be more than a punchline. And now they were trying to box me in again. Tell me where I belonged, where I didn't. But something shifted. I realized that as long as I played by their rules, waited for permission, nothing would change. So I stopped waiting. I wasn't there to prove them wrong anymore. I was there to prove myself right. And if they weren't going to give me a place on that field, I'd take it. It's funny how the same place can feel like home and hell at the same time. That field? It became both for me. When I was on it, I felt alive. I felt fast. I felt like I belonged to something bigger than my reflection. But when I stepped off it, I was back to being the one-handed kid. That patch of grass? It saved me, and it broke me. After weeks of being ignored, laughed at, and treated like a joke, I stopped waiting for permission. I showed up early, left late, ran extra laps, lifted more weight, studied the playbook like it was scripture, and slowly, something shifted. Not in them, in me. I stopped caring if they believed in me. I started focusing on something bigger, becoming undeniable. Because when you're undeniable, they can't ignore you forever. I'd line up on the edge of the field during every drill, waiting for just one missed catch and one fumble, one bad route. And when it happened, I'd jump in, didn't ask, didn't wait, just went. And each time I did, I made noise, caught passes one-handed, tackled guys twice my size, broke up plays I wasn't even assigned to. At first, they called it luck. Then they called it annoying. Then, they started calling me by my name. But here's the thing no one tells you. Earning respect doesn't mean the disrespect disappears. Some guys just couldn't let it go. They'd hide my gloves, mock my grip, toss the ball a little too hard, hoping I'd drop it. I never did, even when my fingers were purple from the cold, even when my arm ached from taking every rep solo. I held on, not just to the ball, to the pain, because the pain was proof I was still in it. But the moment I thought I'd finally turned the corner, someone reminded me exactly who they still thought I was. We were 2 weeks away from the first game, depth chart day. The coach posted the list outside the locker room. Everyone rushed to check it. I waited, not out of fear, out of habit. I'd learned not to expect much, but when I walked up, there it was, my name, wide receiver, second string. It felt like oxygen, like after years of drowning, someone finally pulled me to the surface. I looked around, no cheers, no pats on the back, but Marcus gave me the nod, the one that meant, I see you. I showed up to practice that day like a storm. Route after route, catch after catch. I was faster, cleaner, smarter. And then it happened. The starting receiver twisted his ankle during a slant. Coach looked around. His eyes met mine. Get in. I don't remember the play call. I just remember the feeling. Heartbeat like a drum line, cleats digging into the turf like claws. The ball flying through the air in slow motion. One hand, secure, step, touchdown. The field exploded. But then came the silence. After practice, I found my locker trashed, cleats cut, jersey ripped, a note taped to the door. Still just a freak with a lucky hand. My stomach dropped, not from fear, but from something worse, recognition. I knew who did it, but saying his name wouldn't fix anything. It would just confirm what they already believed, that I didn't belong, that I was fragile. So I didn't say a word. I cleaned up, put on a backup jersey, and the next day I ran harder than ever, because I knew the only way out was through. The field was my battlefield, but it was also my sanctuary. And if they wanted a war, I'd give them one. Getting into college should have felt like a dream. It was supposed to be the reward, the fresh start. But for me, it was just a bigger spotlight on everything I wasn't. Marcus and I had always done everything together. Elementary, middle school, high school, same sports, same classes, same jokes. We even got recruited by the same college. People thought it was this heartwarming story, twin brothers chasing the dream together. But the moment we stepped on that campus, something changed. We were still brothers, still twins, but we weren't seen as the same anymore. Because while Marcus became the team's rising star, I became the reminder that miracles still had limits. From day one, Marcus fit right in. He was fast, focused, explosive. Coaches lit up when he walked into the room. Reporters started using words like NFL potential. He earned his spot, no doubt. But me? I was background noise. Despite everything I'd overcome, despite how hard I trained, they still saw the same thing the high school coaches did, a body that didn't fit the blueprint. I didn't get reps in the scrimmages, didn't get called in team meetings. I was technically on the team, but really, I was a ghost. And the worst part? Marcus didn't even realize it. Not at first. He was busy making plays, studying tape, giving interviews. I was stuck on the sideline, stretching, sprinting, pretending it didn't eat me alive. There were nights I'd sit in our dorm room, headphones on, listening to music that made me feel anything other than invisible. And I'd hear his name on the TV in the next room. Marcus Griffin, breakout freshman, future pro. What a story. And me? No mention, no highlight, no recognition. But that wasn't what hurt most. What hurt was how easy it was for everyone, even him, to forget I was there too. We came in as brothers, but somehow, I started to feel like his burden. There was one moment I'll never forget. A booster event, fancy dinner, big names. They invited Marcus to speak. I went to support. One of the coaches pulled me aside and said, "You must be so proud of your brother. It's amazing what he's doing, especially considering what you've been through." I smiled politely, but inside I wanted to scream. I wasn't jealous of Marcus. I was angry at the world for always making me a side note in my own damn story. After that, I started skipping events, stopped hanging around the locker room. If they didn't want me there, I wouldn't beg. But Marcus noticed. He came back to the dorm one night, tossed me a protein bar and asked, "Why you always disappearing lately?" I didn't answer. He pressed, "You good?" I looked at him and finally said what I'd been holding in. "I'm tired of being the feel-good story, Marcus. I want to be the real story." He didn't say anything, just nodded and left the room. The next morning, he showed up to practice wearing a custom shirt. Big letters on the front. Built different. That was my phrase. He'd heard me say it for years, and now he wore it on his chest, like a message. The coaches noticed. So did the media. They asked what it meant. He pointed at me. That moment didn't change everything overnight, but it cracked something open. I started getting reps, started getting looks, started being called by my name again, not his brother. But the pressure didn't ease. In fact, it got worse. Because now they expected me to prove I belonged. And every dropped pass, every missed block, felt like I was letting him down. Being his twin used to feel like a gift. Now it felt like a mirror I couldn't escape. And one night, that mirror finally shattered. People always talk about the grind like it's something glamorous. They post gym selfies. They wear shirts that say things like, "No days off." But let me tell you, the real grind, it's quiet, it's ugly, and no one claps for it. You know what the grind really looks like? It's dragging yourself out of bed at 10:45 p.m. when your body's screaming at you to rest. It's limping to a locked gym, bribing a janitor with Red Bulls just to crack a back door open. It's walking into a dark, empty weight room with one flickering light and no music, no mirrors, no camera. Just silence and pain. After Marcus wore that built different shirt and pointed at me in practice, something shifted. For a second I felt like I mattered, but then it hit me. If they were watching me now, they'd expect more from me later. And I wasn't sure I could give it. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I disappeared. Not from the team, from the noise, from the pressure, from the expectations. I trained when no one was watching, because I figured if I couldn't outshine them in the spotlight, I'd outwork them in the dark. I started from zero. Again, I couldn't train like the others. Most guys gripped the bar with both hands, racked up plates, posted PRs. Me, I worked with one arm, one chance, One purpose. One-arm dumbbell presses until my shoulder burned. Core holds until my abs spasmed. Band pulls strapped to a door hinge in my dorm. Push-ups with one fist flat and a stump balancing on a medicine ball. Ugly. Broken. Mine. In my closet, I hung tennis balls from string. Every night I'd launch them with a slingshot and try to catch them blind. I missed. Over and over. But one day I caught 20 in a row. Then 30. Then 50. My fingertips split open. The tape ripped skin every time I pulled it off. But I didn't stop. Because there was no crowd to impress. No coach to pat me on the back. Just the voice in my head saying, "This is what it takes." I trained in silence so loud it echoed. My heart would pound so hard I could hear it in my ears. I'd whisper things to myself just to keep going. Again. Faster. Do it better. Nobody ever saw those nights. And that was the point. But one stormy night while I was soaking in sweat and rain, someone was there, watching, hidden in the dark. The rain that night was biblical. It came down in sheets, stinging my face, soaking my socks. Most people wouldn't even walk outside. Me? I was sprinting cone drills through puddles like my future depended on it. Because maybe it did. I had my prosthetic wrapped in duct tape just to keep it stable. Each step sent a jolt up my leg, but I didn't slow down. I couldn't. The lightning flashed, the thunder cracked, and I kept moving. Then I saw it, a car, parked at the far end of the lot, no headlights, just windshield wipers and a silhouette behind the glass. Coach Williams. He didn't get out, didn't wave, didn't honk. He just sat there, watching me. For 40 minutes. Next day at practice, he didn't mention it, didn't nod, didn't smile. But when it was time to split into squads, he called out, "Griffin, with the ones." The ones? First team? My heart almost exploded. I lined up wide. Snap. Exploded off the line. Cut in. Caught the ball. Spun. Gone. No one cheered. But I heard a breath. Just one. His. I didn't need more. Back in my dorm, staring at the ceiling, I smiled for the first time in weeks. Because that night I learned something priceless. You don't need the spotlight to be seen. You just need to show up when no one else will. The NFL Combine isn't a game. It's a battlefield. No helmets, no pads. Just numbers, judgment, and millions of dollars on the line. I remember walking into the dome that morning, every scout staring at my body like I was a broken toy. Like they were looking for cracks, a weakness they could jot down. Missing left hand, limited grip, poor ball control. I saw the doubts written on their faces before I even moved. Most guys walked in with swagger. I walked in with scars. No one said it, but I knew what they were thinking. This is cute. Let's see how fast the one-handed kid falls apart. And for a second, I believed them. Not because I lacked the talent, but because I knew I was stepping into a place built to break people like me. Then I saw my brother in the stands. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. He just nodded. Same nod Coach gave me after that rainy night. Same one Dad used to give me when I got back up after getting knocked down as a kid. That nod, it meant one thing. You've already been through worse than this. So I tightened my cleats, cracked my neck, and stepped into the 40-yard dash line. If they thought I came here to prove them wrong, they had no idea what I was about to do. The turf felt colder than usual. The silence before the whistle was louder than any stadium I'd ever played in. And then, pop, the gun fired. I exploded off the line like I was chasing every doubt that had ever been thrown at me. Step, 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 arms pumping, prosthetics swinging, legs slicing through air like blades. For a moment I felt weightless, like I wasn't running for a number. I was running for every kid who'd ever been told they weren't built for greatness. When I crossed that finish line, there was no celebration, no roar, just a silence. So thick you could feel the disbelief. Then the numbers dropped on the screen. 4:38, Gasps. Pens dropped. Heads turned. That time didn't just shock them, it shattered their excuses. A linebacker with one hand just ran a 4:38.40. Scouts scrambled to confirm the clock. Coaches whispered like something illegal just happened. And I stood there breathing heavy, chest up like, what now? But I wasn't done. Next was the bench press. They had questions about my strength, said I couldn't hold my own in the trenches, couldn't tackle, couldn't shed blocks, couldn't survive the league. So I stepped under the bar and started counting like the world was watching, because this time it was. I laid back on the bench, eyes staring straight up at the ceiling. No crowd noise, no music, just the sound of metal shifting above me. 25 reps was the mark they respected, but in my head I wasn't chasing numbers. I was chasing everything they said I couldn't do. They strapped my prosthetic in place. One of the scouts muttered, "Let's see how far this goes." I smiled. That was all the fuel I needed. The bar came down. Once, twice, 3 times. The reps kept coming. My left side burned. My right shoulder screamed. But I didn't stop. 17, 19, 21. My breath got heavier. The room started spinning, but I heard my brother's voice in my head. "You've done worse with less." 23, 24. I paused. Every eye was on me. Phones up. Jaws dropped. They weren't laughing anymore. I pushed one more time. 25. Then I dropped the bar and sat up. For the first time, the scouts clapped. Not out of pity, not because of a heartwarming story, because they saw it. Raw, undeniable. NFL-level power. No excuses, no gimmicks, just grit. I walked past them like I didn't hear a thing, but inside, I was on fire. They didn't see me coming. But now they couldn't unsee me. The silence hit harder than the applause. After the combine, I didn't walk out feeling like a hero. I walked out wondering if it actually meant anything. All my life, people said, "Work hard, and they'll respect you." But respect doesn't always come in cheers. Sometimes it comes in silence. And that's what I walked into when I got back to campus. The locker room was dead quiet when I pushed open the door. No backslaps, no high fives, just 30 pairs of eyes pretending not to see me. Marcus sat at his usual spot, lacing up his cleats like it was any other day. No smirk this time. No built different shirts. Just him, focused, or pretending to be. I walked to my locker, my duffel dragging behind me, wet from the parking lot. As I sat down, the tension thickened. They had all seen it, the 438, the bench press. The headlines were already floating. One-handed linebacker makes NFL history at Combine. But here, none of that mattered. This wasn't ESPN. This was real life. This was the room where I'd always felt like half a player. And now I was waiting, hoping that something had shifted. I wasn't ready for what happened next, because it wasn't noise, it was something else entirely. The click of a cleat echoed as someone stood. It was Marcus. He grabbed something from his locker, turned, and walked straight toward me. My heart thumped. Was this going to be a confrontation? A joke? One more humiliation to remind me where I stood? He stopped in front of me, held out a shirt. It was his. The same built-different shirt he used to wear like a badge of honor, except this time, he wasn't mocking me. He placed it on my lap and said quietly, "You earned this more than any of us ever did." Then he turned and walked away. No applause, no crowd. But slowly, others started to shift. Jared, our tight end, nodded. Ty, our backup QB, muttered, "Respect." Even Coach, standing at the doorway, gave that same old, silent nod. And I sat there, holding that shirt, not sure if I should laugh or cry. I thought the Combine was my proving ground, but the real test was this, being seen as an equal by the men I bled with. That day changed everything. Not because I finally had their respect, but because I no longer needed it to validate who I was. I trained alone. I fought invisible battles. I broke through walls they never even saw. And for the first time, they knew it. Marcus started sitting next to me during film. Coach let me call out audibles on defense. Reporters started asking me for interviews. Not my brother, not the coach, me. But here's the truth nobody tells you. Respect isn't a destination, it's a wait. Because once people finally see you as more than a novelty, the expectations double. Now, I wasn't just the guy with one hand. I was the guy who ran a 438, the guy who benched 20+ reps, the guy who broke the mold. There was no more hiding. Every snap, every play, every rep in practice, eyes were on me. And I had to live up to the myth I never asked to create. But I wasn't done yet. Because if they thought the locker room was where my story peaked, they hadn't seen me on draft day. The house was too quiet for a Saturday, day 3 of the NFL draft. I sat on the edge of the couch, eyes locked on the screen, heart locked in my throat. Names kept rolling across the bottom, pick after pick, school after school. But none of them were mine. The living room smelled like pancakes and nerves. Mom was trying to stay upbeat, pretending to clean the same corner of the counter over and over. My brother kept flipping through the channels, but I could see him glancing at me every few seconds. No one said it out loud, but the energy had shifted. Day 1, we were hopeful. Day 2, we were frustrated. Day 3, we were just trying not to fall apart. My phone sat face up on the table, fully charged, full bars, ringer on high. Every time it lit up, I jumped. Wrong number. Spam. Hey bro, any updates? It felt like a joke. I had done everything right, killed it at the combine, proved I could play at the highest level. And still, silence. I told myself to stay calm, stay focused. But I could feel the doubt creeping in. What if the combine wasn't enough? What if I wasn't enough? What if my whole life led to this? And nobody called. The hours dragged like they were covered in mud. Pick 190, 191, 192. Each name was like a hammer, pounding away at the last bits of hope I had left. Some were teammates, some I'd played against, some I'd never even heard of. And every time a linebacker got called, it felt like a door slamming shut. One less chance, one more reminder. I tried not to show it, but my chest was getting tight. Mom sat beside me and gently squeezed my knee. "You okay, baby?" I nodded, but I wasn't. My brother, still scrolling draft updates on his phone, suddenly leaned forward. "Yo, the Seahawks are on the clock." I sat up. I had visited Seattle, met the staff, shook hands with the GM. They liked me, or at least, that's what I told myself. But that was months ago. Would they really take the risk now? The seconds ticked by like a slow heartbeat. And then, silence. The pick hadn't come in. My phone didn't ring. Nothing. I looked around the room, tried to laugh it off. "Guess not," I said, forcing a smile. But inside, it was chaos. Doubt, shame, fear. Like the world was telling me one last time that I didn't belong. I stood up to walk outside, get some air, try to breathe. And then, the phone rang. It was vibrating before I even saw the screen. My heart stopped. This wasn't spam. This wasn't a friend. The area code, Seattle. I froze. My brother yelled, "Answer it." I fumbled the phone, nearly dropped it. Put it to my ear with a trembling hand. "Hello?" A deep voice came through. "Shaq, this is Coach Carroll. You ready to make history?" I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out and I sank to the floor. "Yes, sir," I whispered, voice cracking. "Welcome to the Seahawks, son. We're proud to have you." I could hear people cheering in the background, real celebration, not out of pity, out of belief. My mom was already crying. My dad grabbed my shoulders and shouted, "You did it, boy." My brother punched the air like we'd won a championship. For the first time, I felt it, like I truly belonged. No labels, no asterisks, just a player, a man, a fighter. The cameras didn't show that moment, They missed the tears, the shaking hands, the flood of memories crashing all at once. Pop Warner, the surgeries, the whispers, the combine, all of it led here. I wasn't just drafted. I was believed in, not as a story, as a football player, as a man who refused to let anything, even the loss of a hand, keep him from chasing a dream. But the draft was just the beginning. Now, I had to prove I belonged on the field. The draft was a celebration, but training camp, that was war. From the moment I walked into the Seahawks facility, the energy changed. No cameras, no feel-good headlines, no more congratulations, just coaches with clipboards, veterans with something to prove, and rookies like me, walking on a tightrope with no net. I could feel the eyes on me. Some players nodded. Quiet respect. Others? They didn't bother hiding the doubt. That's the one-handed dude? Good for PR, I guess. He won't last 2 weeks. I didn't say a word, didn't have to. I let the reps speak for me. First day, warm-ups, drills, light scrimmages. I ran like my life depended on it. Because in a way, it did. But I wasn't just fighting for a roster spot. I was fighting for every kid watching, hoping, believing. Every dropped pass felt like a failure. Every missed assignment echoed louder in my head than the coach's whistle. I was chasing perfection in a game built on chaos. The pain hit quick, back tight, hamstring pulling, my prosthetic digging into skin that had already been scarred too many times. But I kept going. One more sprint, one more rep, one more reason to stay on the field. And just when I thought I was settling in, I got hit harder than I ever had in my life. And everything went dark. It was like getting blindsided by a freight train. I didn't even see him coming. 1 second I was watching the quarterback. The next my body folded in midair. Helmet cracked sideways. Breath knocked out of me. I hit the turf hard. The world spun. I could hear the pads clapping around me, players yelling, coaches blowing whistles. But everything sounded muffled, like I was underwater. I blinked, tried to move my fingers, then my legs, then my left side. Pain. Not the kind that screams, the kind that whispers something's wrong. A medic knelt beside me. "You good?" I nodded. Lied. Because if I didn't get up on my own, I knew what they'd say. "See? Told you he couldn't take a hit. That's why you don't draft gimmicks." So I stood. Slow, unsteady, but I stood. Walked to the sideline like it didn't hurt. Like my ribs weren't screaming. Like my arm wasn't shaking. Coach didn't look at me. Didn't ask if I was all right. He just said, "Next rep." That was the NFL. You're either on, or you're gone. No sympathy. No second chances. I watched the next play from the sidelines, biting my tongue, fists clenched. I wasn't here to survive. I was here to dominate. And yet, for the first time in years, I started to question if I really could. That night I couldn't sleep. Every muscle ached. My ribs throbbed with every breath. But that wasn't what kept me up. It was the doubt. That hit had rattled more than my bones. It cracked the armor I'd spent my whole life building. What if the critics were right? What if this really was too much? I stared at the ceiling in the dark, listening to the sounds of other rookies sleeping in the dorms. Some snored like they had nothing to prove. Others mumbled plays in their sleep. I sat up and reached for my phone, not to scroll, not to distract, but to look at a photo. It was one I kept hidden, buried deep in my camera roll. Me, 6 years old, holding a football with a tiny smile and only one hand. I remembered that day, the way other kids stared, the way one coach said, maybe he should try something else. But I didn't. I stayed. I trained. I fought. And now I was here, on the edge of something massive. So I made a decision. The next day I'd go harder, hit first, hit louder. They wouldn't just see a guy with one hand. They'd see a linebacker who could break through anything, even fear. Because the next day, I wasn't just playing for a spot. I was playing to silence the world. Final cuts were coming. One more preseason game. One more chance. One more moment to prove I wasn't just a story, I was a player. The coaches didn't say it out loud, but I could feel it in the way they looked at me, measured, calculated, like they were checking off boxes in their heads. Speed, check. Effort, check. Tackling. That's where the pause came. That's where the doubt lived. I had to erase that pause. The week leading up to the game, I trained like I was chasing something burning on the horizon. I studied film until my eyes went dry. Ran drills after everyone else had gone to bed. Every rep, every sprint, every hit had to matter. Because this wasn't college anymore. There were no scholarships, no second chances. It was simple. Make the team, or go home. I watched other rookies get called into the office. Coach wants to see you. That phrase was a death sentence. Some came back with heads low, others didn't come back at all. And every time I heard those footsteps in the hallway, I held my breath. But my name never came up. Not yet. Then came game day. The final preseason game. The one that separates the hopeful from the chosen. And just hours before kickoff, Coach called my name and told me I'd be starting on special teams. Starting on special teams might not sound like much to most people, but for me, it was everything. It meant I'd touch the field. I'd get real game time. I'd get a shot to show the world what I was made of, not in theory, but in collision, sweat, and grit. I suited up with fire in my chest. No nerves this time, no hesitation, just focus. When that whistle blew for kickoff, I took off like a rocket. First play, I beat 2 blockers and dove for the tackle. Fingertips brushed the returner's leg, but he slipped away. No tackle. Close, but close didn't count. Next drive, punt coverage. I sprinted down the sideline, found my lane, and bam, shoulder to chest leveled their returner. The crowd gasped. My teammates roared. The coaches? Silent. But I saw one nod. That nod meant more than words. By halftime, I had 3 solo tackles and 1 forced fumble. But it wasn't enough. I knew that. Because 1 bad angle, 1 missed assignment, and it could all disappear. The third quarter started. Kickoff again. This time, the returner broke through the first wave. He was headed toward my lane, full speed, no blockers in front, just me and him. If I missed, it was over. But if I hit, everything could change. I lowered my shoulders, timed the angle, held my breath, and then, impact. It felt like 2 worlds colliding, helmet to chest. My arms wrapped around his waist, my one good hand locked in. My body drove him back. He hit the turf so hard the ball popped loose. Fumble. My teammate recovered, and the sideline erupted. I didn't even celebrate. I just stood there, breathing heavy, scanning for the coaches. Coach Carroll met my eyes across the field. He smiled. That was it. That was the moment. I had turned a question mark into a statement. They didn't see a kid with one hand anymore. They saw a force, a closer, a weapon. After the game, I sat alone in the locker room, helmet on my lap, hands shaking, from adrenaline, not fear. One of the vets walked by, slapped my shoulder. You earned that, Rook. 2 days later, the roster cuts came in. I waited for the call, sat in my apartment, lights off, heart pounding. And when the phone finally rang, it wasn't a goodbye. It was the opposite. Congratulations, you made the team. I hung up, closed my eyes, and let it sink in. But deep down, I knew. Making the team wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of the real battle. The stadium was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Lights blazing, fans roaring. My heart thudding like a drum in a war zone. This wasn't preseason anymore, this was Sunday, NFL Sunday. And I wasn't on the bench. I was suited up, helmet on, gloves tight, standing on the sideline waiting for the signal. My first official game. Every step leading here replayed in my mind. The surgeries, the whispers, the late nights in empty gyms, the hits, the pain, the doubt. Now I was minutes away from stepping onto an NFL field. Coach turned to me. "You're in, third down package." I didn't blink, didn't hesitate. I ran, onto the field, into the noise, into the chaos. We lined up, defense set, crowd shaking the stands, quarterback barking orders on the other side. I took my stance, locked eyes with the running back, read his feet, watched his hips. The ball snapped. Everything slowed down and sped up all at once. Linemen crashed, receivers sprinted, and then the running back got the handoff, coming right at me. This was it. All the headlines, all the doubt, all the eyes. Everything came down to this moment. If I missed the tackle, I'd be back to being just a story, a song. But if I hit, they'd never forget my name. I exploded forward. No hesitation, no second guessing, just instinct. The running back tried to cut inside, quick, slippery, but I was quicker. I lowered my shoulder, wrapped with my left arm, and pulled with every ounce of strength in my body. Contact. The hit echoed. He went down, clean, hard, no gain. The crowd erupted, but I didn't celebrate. Not yet. I stood up calm, head high, let them see it, let them feel it. I wasn't here by accident. I belonged. My teammates mobbed me, slapping my helmet, yelling, "Let's go." Even the coach cracked a smile. That one play, it changed everything. The rest of the game I was locked in. Another tackle in the flat. A tipped pass that almost turned into a pick. Pressure on the QB that forced a bad throw. Play after play, I wasn't just surviving, I was shining. And by the fourth quarter, the stadium knew my name. Fans started chanting, broadcasters started telling my story. Cameras zoomed in on my face, but all I could think about was the next snap, because the game wasn't over, and fate wasn't done testing me. Final drive. Tie game. Offense pushing. 2 minutes on the clock. And then, they called a blitz, and I was the one coming off the edge. I crouched low, eyes locked on the quarterback, heart steady, mind sharp. The center snapped the ball, and I was gone. Like a missile. Dodged the tight end, cut through the gap. The quarterback barely had time to set his feet. He looked left, then turned toward me, and his eyes widened. Too late. I hit him clean, shoulder to chest. Ball flew out of his hands. Fumble. Stadium erupted into chaos. Our defense pounced, recovered. Game over. We won. My teammates tackled me in celebration, helmets banging, screams all around me. But in my head, silence. Just one voice. That little boy with one hand, the one they said wouldn't make it, the one they told to quit, the one who never stopped believing. He was smiling now. After the game, I stood at midfield, looking around at 60,000 fans, some holding signs with my name, others chanting it. But none of that compared to what came next. My brother found me, ran onto the field, hugged me like we were kids again. "You did it," he said. I smiled. No, we did. That night, I didn't sleep, not because of the noise, but because of the peace. I had made it. I had proven them wrong, and most important, I had inspired someone out there to stop hiding and start chasing their own impossible. Sometimes the world only sees what's missing, but greatness isn't measured by what you have. It's measured by what you do, despite it all. They said I couldn't play with one hand, that I wasn't strong enough, fast enough, or built for this stage. But I didn't come here to fit the mold. I came to break it. And if you're watching this right now, feeling like the world has already counted you out, let me tell you something. You are not your limits. You are your fight. So get back up, keep pushing, and one day, you'll turn your pain into power and your doubt into legacy. What are you waiting for? If this story kept you watching until the end, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment your city and country. We're just getting started, and the next stories will hit even harder. No fluff here, just reality, resilience, and game-changing comebacks. And if you love watching people shut the world up with pure will, this is your place.